Puzzle Center. For solving one of our math...
This is the Puzzle Center. Where did you get this number?
You may have lost some bytes to the transfer, you might have lost a keyword,
The film opens with a tense situation as police officers work to secure a group of hostages. That day, a bank in America was being robbed by a group of armed criminals. The authorities were attempting to negotiate with the robbers. However, after too much time had passed, the police decided to storm the building and engage the robbers in a shootout. Some of the robbers had already pleaded with their leader to end the heist, but the leader refused to listen. Eventually, gunfire erupted. And the police quickly subdued the gang. Several were killed, including the youngest member of the group. One of the robbers, named Art, was furious when the police shot one of his comrades, because the truth was, both of them were actually undercover FBI agents posing as robbers. Art immediately confronted the officer who had given the order to storm the bank. He angrily told him that he only needed 3 more seconds to convince the robbers to surrender peacefully. Why, then, had the order been given to attack? Enraged, Art punched him and walked away from the scene. The scene then shifts to a special school for children with developmental disabilities. One of the students, a boy named Simon, is given a puzzle book by his teacher. Simon, who loves solving puzzles, happily takes the book home. When he arrives home, he greets his mother, makes himself a cup of hot chocolate, and goes to his room. There, he begins working on the puzzles, but only a few minutes after opening the book, Simon suddenly picks up the phone and dials a secret U.S. government number. The intelligence agents on duty are shocked. Someone has managed to crack their secret code. They quickly answer the call and ask Simon to stay on the line, but Simon simply replies, "You're a stranger." Moments later, his mother tells him to hang up the phone, and he does. Meanwhile, a government agent named Leo contacts his colleague, Dean, and tells him that a 9-year-old boy has just solved their top-secret code. At first, Dean doesn't believe him, but Leo insists it's true and says he is ready to report it to their superior, Colonel Kudrow. The message is sent, and after Kudrow finishes a meeting, one of his subordinates delivers the report. Back at Simon's house, his father has just returned from work. He greets his wife, then goes to check on Simon and tuck him into bed. The film then cuts to Kudrow arriving at the National Security Headquarters to meet with Leo and Dean. In a private meeting, Leo explains how the code was broken. Kudrow reveals that he has already done research on Simon, a 9-year-old boy from Chicago who is autistic. Leo and Dean remain convinced that Simon truly cracked the code. Leo explains that the code had been hidden in a puzzle book, and they had been certain that no human being could solve it. But somehow, a young autistic boy had done the impossible. Kudrow becomes furious that they had embedded national security information in something as simple as a puzzle book. He orders them to erase all records of the incident immediately. Back at Simon's house, after his father puts him to bed, there's a knock at the door. A man named Burrell introduces himself as a detective. Simon's father lets him in, and Burrell begins inspecting the entire house, including Simon's bedroom. While Simon's parents are distracted, Burrell suddenly pulls out a gun and shoots them both dead. He then searches upstairs for Simon, but cannot find him. Hearing approaching police sirens, Burrell quickly leaves the house. But before doing so, he places the gun in Simon's father's hand to make it look like a murder-suicide. To make it appear as though Simon's father had taken his own life, Burrell placed the gun in his hand. Moments later, his accomplice arrived to pick him up, and they left the scene. The story then shifts to Art, who is spending time with a colleague. In the middle of their conversation, the colleague receives a phone call meant for Art. When Art takes the call, he learns that he has been assigned to a homicide case. He heads straight to the crime scene. only to discover that it involves the murder of Simon's parents. Art enters the house, examining the scene, including the bodies of Simon's mother and father. After taking in the details, he asks the officers on duty to give him a moment to look around. He heads upstairs to Simon's bedroom. At first, he simply looks around, until he notices something unusual. A small door hidden behind the wardrobe. Opening it, he finds Simon hiding inside. Art tells him it's safe to come out, but Simon screams, refusing to let anyone get close. Thankfully, Art manages to calm him down after being given a toy. Simon then tells Art's partner that the case is closed and that everyone can go home. Simon is taken to a hospital for a medical checkup. After the examination, Art learns that Simon is autistic. The scene then cuts to Leo and Dean, who have been summoned once again to meet Colonel Kudrow in a remote location. When they arrive, Kudrow scolds them both and shows them a newspaper reporting the murder of Simon's parents. He suspects that others may have learned that someone cracked the U.S. government's top-secret code. Kudrow orders them to protect the boy from any threat that may come his way. Meanwhile, Art is at home watching a documentary about his undercover work, haunted by the memory of his fallen partner. He decides to go to a bar, and afterward, he heads to the hospital to check on Simon. But when he arrives, he is puzzled to find that the police officers he assigned to guard Simon are gone. A nurse explains that Simon's parents had come to take him home, and so the officers were dismissed. Alarm bells go off in Art's mind. He rushes to Simon's room, but it's empty. Suddenly, he runs into a doctor who claims Simon has been moved to the audiology room. Art hurries there and finds Simon. Wasting no time, he takes the boy out of the hospital. It's then that Art realizes the doctor he saw earlier was actually Burrell in disguise. This time, Art is determined to keep Simon safe. While they're in the elevator, they come face to face with Burrell. They lock eyes. When the doors open, Simon bolts out, but Burrell makes a desperate move, pulling out his gun and firing at the boy. Art reacts instantly, shielding Simon and escaping with him into a hospital ambulance. As they speed away, Simon struggles and resists, repeating over and over, "Art is a stranger." Meanwhile, Burrell gives chase, firing at them whenever he gets the chance. Realizing they can't outrun him forever, Art stops the ambulance and gets out with Simon. He tells the boy to climb over a fence. Simon manages to do so first, but then wanders directly onto active train tracks, where a train is fast approaching. Art sprints toward him and grabs him just in time, pulling him to safety. The two continue on foot. After walking for some time, Art decides to board a public train. He tries to reassure Simon, who still insists he's a stranger. Elsewhere on the train, a mysterious man is searching for them. He checks corridor after corridor, until Art suddenly appears and attacks him. They grapple fiercely, each trying to overpower the other. But Art wins the fight, throwing the man from the moving train to his death. After the fight, Art grows increasingly curious about why so many people are after Simon. Eventually, after a long journey, they arrive at the home of Simon's friend, Tommy. There, Art explained that he had taken Simon and rescued him from the hospital. Tommy was furious, as he had received multiple calls from his superiors instructing him to detain Art. But Art kept insisting that there was a criminal trying to kidnap Simon. Even though Tommy refused to believe him, Art asked for his help, at least for a little while. In the end, it was Tommy's wife who stepped in to assist them. Simon was given clean clothes, food, and a bath. Not wanting to burden Tommy any further, Art decided they should leave, borrowing Tommy's car before they left. That night, heavy rain poured down. Art decided to pull over and rest, as he hadn't slept, and neither had Simon, who wouldn't stay still. The next morning, when Art woke up, Simon was no longer in his seat. Alarmed, Art immediately started the car and drove around the area. Luckily, he found Simon walking alone and brought him back. Art then decided to take Simon back to his home. Guided by Simon, who seemed to know the way, they eventually arrived. Once inside, Simon continued the same daily routine he used to do with his mother, greeting her, making a cup of hot chocolate, and going to his room to work on a puzzle. That day, Simon shocked Art once again. After solving another puzzle, he picked up the phone and once more dialed the number belonging to the U.S. intelligence agency. This time, Dean was finally convinced that someone really had managed to crack the government's top-secret code. They answered the call and asked Simon not to hang up, curious about the person on the other end. Art then took the phone and asked who he was speaking to, where the man worked, and in what capacity. Dean refused to give details, saying only that he would send Art an email. After the call ended, Art took Simon to a public library to access the internet. With help from a staff member, Art opened his email and found a message from Dean. The email contained strange codes Art couldn't understand. He called Simon over, and when Simon looked at them, he was able to read Dean's hidden message. The message contained an address for a meeting. The next day, Dean arrived in Chicago, walking casually while waiting for someone to approach him. Meanwhile, in a coffee shop, Art asked a woman to keep an eye on Simon for a short while. At first, she refused, but after Art claimed to be Simon's older brother, she agreed. Her name was Casey. Not long after, Art met with Dean. As they walked together, Art asked what was going on. Dean explained that he worked for the NSA, and was shocked to learn that a 9-year-old autistic boy had cracked one of the government's top-secret codes. While Dean was explaining how it had happened, a bullet suddenly struck him in the stomach, killing him instantly. Seeing Dean collapse, Art scanned the area and spotted Burrell trying to escape. He gave chase, pushing past pedestrians as Burrell ran through the crowded street. But Burrell managed to get away. Dean's death only deepened Art's suspicion about who was so desperate to capture the code. News of Dean's killing quickly reached his colleague Leo, who went to other NSA personnel for help. Struggling to find a solution, one of them instructed Leo to type a letter on a typewriter. The scene then shifts to Art meeting Tommy again, this time in a closed bar. Tommy hands over Burrell's file, revealing that he is a covert operative. At first, Art wants to apprehend him immediately, but Tommy explains that Burrell cannot simply be taken in. Tommy then asks why Art is willing to carry the burden of protecting Simon. Art simply replies, "Then who else will?" Tommy is left speechless. The scene then cuts back to Leo, who has just finished typing the letter. As Leo was about to stand up, he suddenly noticed the presence of Burrell, whom he did not recognize. Without hesitation, Burrell shot Leo, killing him instantly. Burrell then searched for the letter Leo had written, but failed to find it and eventually left. The scene then shifts to Art and Simon arriving at Casey's residence, asking for permission to rest there. At first, Casey refused because she wasn't close to Art at all. However, after Art explained that Simon was an autistic child who had lost his parents, Casey agreed, on the condition that they both leave the next morning. Art accepted the terms, and Casey helped Simon get to bed, while Art tried to get some rest. The next morning, the scene shows Leo's colleague, Emily, coming to visit him. But when Emily opened the door, she was shocked to find Leo lying dead with a gunshot wound. Emily decided to call the FBI, and her call was picked up by Tommy. She told Tommy that she would only speak to Art, as she believed the matter was very important. Tommy then brought Emily to meet Art. When they met, Emily handed Art the letter Leo had left behind. She explained that she worked with Leo at the NSA. Part of the letter was missing, but what remained revealed that her superior, Colonel Kudrow, was involved in the murder of Simon's parents, as well as his colleague Dean and Leo himself. Emily couldn't hold back her tears. Art thanked her for coming forward and for giving him the letter. After that meeting, Art went to pick up Simon from Casey's house, but Casey scolded him for not keeping their agreement to leave in the morning. Art apologized and immediately took Simon with him. Later, Art met with Tommy, who took him to a building where a party was being held. Among the attendees was Colonel Kudrow. Kudrow received a message from Art showing part of Leo's letter. One of Kudrow's men informed him that the letter had been delivered by a man claiming to be from the FBI. Believing there was a matter to discuss, Kudrow ordered his men to bring Art to a back room. Once there, Art, while opening a bottle of wine, told Kudrow that he knew about all of Kudrow's crimes, including ordering the murders of Simon's parents and attempting to have Simon himself killed. He said he planned to hand Leo's letter over to the Senate Oversight Committee, and that the committee would soon suspect Kudrow's involvement. At first, Kudrow seemed unfazed, but Art managed to intimidate him. Art then proposed a deal. He would hand over the letter if Kudrow appeared on television to announce the existence of the multi-million-dollar secret code, and reveal that it had been cracked by a 9-year-old autistic boy. If Kudrow complied, Art would not give the letter to the Senate Oversight Committee. Kudrow eventually agreed to the deal. Before leaving, Art kicked Kudrow as payback for killing Simon's parents. After meeting Art, Kudrow met with Burrell and showed him footage of Art asking the FBI to pick up Simon by helicopter. Burrell suggested they hijack the helicopter to abduct Simon. Meanwhile, Tommy was summoned by his superior after Kudrow complained that the FBI was interfering in the code matter. Tommy's boss told him to back off, as the NSA had taken over the case. After Kudrow left, Tommy insisted that Kudrow was a murderer, showing a letter proving that an NSA employee had been killed by him. This made his boss start to doubt Kudrow. At the same time, Stacy and Simon arrived at the FBI building to take Simon away. However, they encountered Kudrow, who introduced himself as a U.S. Marshal and convinced Stacy to hand Simon over. Kudrow took Simon outside as the helicopter approached. Just as they were about to leave with Simon, Tommy and several other agents surrounded Burrell and Kudrow, leading to a shootout. Tommy quickly protected Stacy, while Kudrow, who was close to escaping with Simon, suddenly had to deal with Art, who appeared inside the helicopter. Art and Kudrow fought fiercely. At one point, Art was in a dangerous position, but Simon, walking along the edge of the building, suddenly handed Art a pistol. Art took it and used it to threaten Kudrow. Kudrow, cornered, pretended to surrender but then grabbed Simon. Forced to act, Art shot Kudrow, killing him instantly. Kudrow fell to his death, and Simon was rescued. The next day, after the incident, Art decided to take Simon back to his school. There, Simon resumed his daily activities, and at that moment, he began to see Art as a friend. He hugged Art, and the film ended.